And greetings. Happy Wednesday. Welcome to the Steve Deace Show. Here live and on demand on BlazeTV, radio, and podcast. I'm Steve Deace alongside Todd Erzin and Auron MacIntyre, and we are brought to you by our friends over at Patriot Mobile. They have been on the vanguard of the parallel economy, particularly in the mobile phone space. Others now want to get in that race. That's great, but don't forget about the OG. All right, because Patriot Mobile also outgains the competition, not just in being there first, but also when it comes to technology. They're one of the only carriers in the country with access to all three major new U.S. networks. That means excellent nationwide coverage. You can switch networks within their main hub anytime you want as a member for free. Unlimited data plans, mobile hotspots, international roaming, internet backup, and so much more. Switching is easier than ever. They've also got a contract buyout program if you're trying to get out from underneath a communist corporation's bad deal for you. You can activate within minutes from the comfort of your own home. Keep your phone, upgrade your phone, keep your number, switch your number. They'll customize it as best they can for the needs of you and your family. When you go to patriotmobile.com/Steve, that's patriotmobile.com/Steve, and get a free month of service to get you started with the offer code Steve. Free month of service to get you started with the offer code Steve at patriotmobile.com/Steve. Also, don't forget our friend and colleague Allie Stuckey's event is coming up in Dallas here on October the 11th. My daughters are going to be two of the thousands their attendance that weekend for Share the Arrows. Alyssa Childers, Katie Faust, who was just on our show, Taylor Dukes, and more joining Allie Stuckey for this event in Dallas at sharethearrows.com. Get discounted tickets today. Get VIP tickets there today if you want. At sharethearrows.com. That's sharethearrows.com. Yes, VIP options are still available. October the 11th in Dallas. Fellas, if you've got a wife, a daughter, a mom, you want to bless her with equipping and encouragement on a deep spiritual level, this is where you want to send her. ShareTheArrows.com. Again, ShareTheArrows.com. Okay, coming up on today's show, another one of our colleagues, Auron MacIntyre, is going to join us here at the bottom of the hour, talking about the battle that he helped to wage against Jimmy Kimmel here in the last week and where that currently stands. And then next hour, Daniel's off for the next few weeks, so we get old school buy, sell, or hold for the continuous hour coming up in the next hour of the show. We'll turn it over to you, the people. But until then, we turn it over to Auron for today's rundown of what happened while we were away.
What happened while we were away, brought to you by Terror in Dallas. 4 people are shot, 2 are dead at an ICE field office in Dallas, Texas this morning. At least 2 ICE detainees are among the victims, according to law enforcement. The shooter is dead from a self-inflicted gunshot wound, confirmed by Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem. FBI Special Agent in Charge Joe Rothrock said this morning there appears to be an anti-ICE motive.
I can confirm at this time that the FBI is investigating this incident as an act of targeted violence. It is unfortunately just the most recent example. What I can also share with you is that early evidence that we've seen from rounds that were found near the suspected shooter contain messages that are anti-ICE in nature.
It's at least the second attack on Texas ICE facilities in the last few months after Antifa staged an attack at the Alvarado detention facility in July. More highlights from Trump's address to the United Nations yesterday while we were on the air, where he rightly pointed out an inconvenient truth to the world's elites.
Let us defend free speech and free expression. Let us protect religious liberty, including for the most persecuted religion on the planet today. It's called Christianity.
Trump also took aim at the global warming scam.
The global warming hoax. The entire globalist concept of asking successful industrialized nations to inflict pain on themselves and radically disrupt their entire societies must be rejected completely and totally, and it must be immediate.
Would-be Trump assassin number 2 Ryan Ruth was found guilty by a Florida jury on all counts he was charged with after he gained access to Trump's golf course in Florida last summer, armed with firearms. Once the guilty verdict was read, Ruth allegedly tried to stab himself in the neck with a pen but was unsuccessful. North Carolina lawmakers passed a bill named Irina's Law in their effort to eliminate cashless bail in the wake of the fatal stabbing of that Ukrainian refugee in Charlotte last month. The bill was passed 82-30 in the North Carolina House and now heads to the desk of North Carolina Democrat Governor Josh Stein. In the aftermath of the White House's and the FDA's announcement on Monday, pregnant women should avoid taking Tylenol as acetaminophen is linked with increased risks for autism. Liberal women on TikTok are downing Tylenol by the bottle. In completely unrelated old news, here's a post from 2017 from the official Tylenol brand account saying, quote, "We actually don't recommend using any of our products while pregnant. Thank you for taking the time to voice your concerns today." Again, that was a post from 2017. Jimmy Kimmel returned to air last night.
Erica Kirk forgave the man who shot her husband. She forgave him. That is an example we should follow. If you believe in the teachings of Jesus as I do.
You sure about that? You sure about that?
Kamala Harris is kicking off her book tour for Stop Rachel Maddow's show, where she was asked why she's a raging homophobe.
You're the first woman elected vice president. You're a black woman and a South Asian woman elected to that high office, very nearly elected president. To say that he couldn't be on the ticket effectively because he was gay is hard to hear.
No. That's not what I said, that he couldn't be on the ticket because he is gay. My point, as I write in the book, is that I was clear that in 107 days, in one of the most hotly contested elections for President of the United States, against someone like Donald Trump who knows no floor, to be a black woman running for President of the United States and as a vice presidential running mate, a gay man, with the stakes being so high, it made me very sad, but I also realized it would be a real risk.
And finally, epic rap battles of theological history. Here's Charles Spurgeon versus Jonathan Edwards.
I love my Presbyterian brothers, got respect for the name. But on infant baptism, man, it ain't the same. Let's open the word. The covenant's fulfilled and Christ is refined. New birth, not your lineage, that's the new covenant sign. Romans 6, buried, risen, faith on display. Back.
Quote Acts 2, but you cut out the core, the promise to your children. That's what it's for, not just you, not just me, but a household call. When the spirit breaks in, he's claiming it all.
Watch that entire and hilarious video on YouTube. Reformed and Dangerous is the account that came up with that. And that's what happened while we were away.
All right, let's discuss. There's so many things in Auron's montage to discuss, but I want to begin by mentioning a name that Auron did not mention, but ties into a couple of the central points of today's montage. And that name is Floyd Lee Corkins. Floyd Lee Corkins. I'll say it again. Floyd Lee Corkins. Does the name ring a bell? Because it's very germane to the things that you are seeing today. In 2012, Floyd Lee Corkins walked into the Washington, D.C. offices of the Family Research Council, fully loaded and armed, with the intent of shooting everybody there. He was taken down by a security guard before he could do so. He would go on to become the first ever person convicted of domestic terrorism within the District of Columbia. Now, you would think this would be a name that would ring a bell. First of all, a name like Floyd Lee Corkins, we joked about this in Nefarious. These guys always have to have three names, right? I mean, he fits the stereotype, right, of a mass murderer. Floyd Lee Corkins sounds like the name of a mass murderer serial killer that you'd come up with in a film or a TV show, except that was his real name. This was a historic case. The very first conviction for domestic terrorism in the history of the District of Columbia. I mean, you would think this would be a name that just rolls off the tongue. Except it's not. And even within a learned audience such as this, it was a name that probably did not ring a bell to the majority of you, the overwhelming majority of you. And then when I gave you his background, you're like, oh yeah, I remember that. Well, why isn't Floyd Lee Corkins a household name? Why isn't his landmark prosecution something that everyone could identify in the not too distant past? Well, it's because they found on Floyd Lee Corkins and in his vehicle all kinds of anti-Chick-fil-A and other anti-Christian conservative propaganda from the likes of people like the Southern Poverty Law Center and others. In other words, Floyd Lee Corkins broke the seal. I have talked for the last several years on our show, gentlemen, about the fear of a John Brown emerging on our side if we do not begin to punish evil, right? Well, in many respects, Floyd Lee Corkins is the demonic version of this on their side. He fired the first shots heard across the blogosphere, across the cable news ecosystem. Floyd Lee Corkins was the first manifestation of the rhetoric of the left. And within the demonic worldview, which always counterfeits the kingdom of God, Floyd Lee Corkins was the first to come forward and say, demonically so, that faith without works is dead. Do not be just hearers and sayers of the word, Floyd Lee Corkins understood, but be doers also. For if these people are Nazis and bigots and literally Hitler, well then, what kind of person would I be to internalize such rhetoric and then not act upon it? Floyd Lee Corkins was the harbinger. Since Floyd Lee Corkins, there have been many more. Remember the gentleman who tried to assassinate about 15% of the Republican House members on a softball field in 2017. He just took Bernie Sanders' rhetoric. He was a big Bernie Sanders reporter. He just took that rhetoric and put it into practice. These are logical conclusions if this rhetoric is true. Logical. There's nothing illogical really about it at all. The really illogical stuff is to assert these things and not act on it. That's what's actually illogical. I mean, outside of our current contemporary political paradigm, if you really believed you were, we just made a movie celebrating Bonhoeffer for standing up to Hitler. Tom Cruise was in another film about Project Valkyrie, which tried to stop Hitler. I mean, if we were sitting in an ethics class and you had the chance to go back to the 1930s and stop Hitler from coming to power, who in their right mind, Todd and Aaron, would raise their hands and say, no, I would not. I just let the whole thing play out. Everyone, of course, would like to think they'd go back and stop it from happening, right? Mm-hmm. How many times, when we were kids, there were these commercials. How many licks does it take to get to the center of the Tootsie Roll Pop? Remember those commercials? Yeah. With the really cool kind of sketch drawing, old school animation? Those were really cool, right? All right. Along those same lines, how many demagogues and demagogueries does it take to create a farm team of assassins and terrorists who will act on your rhetoric? We're finding out now. Floyd Lee Corkins was the first. He was the harbinger. He broke the seal. He was the first. Back then it would have been discus comment sections on blogs, not social media. And he was the first to essentially be Dem for Evs 47 and his anon Dem commentaries. And back then I was contributing on MSNBC, so I used to see all that stuff because it all used to show up in my inbox. You don't deserve rights. Bigots shouldn't have a platform. I can't believe they're putting you on. Glad tried to get MSNBC to take me off the air, in fact. Send him a letter. Now they wouldn't even have to do that. I'm unconscionable now. So how many demagogueries does it take to create a terrorist and an assassin? Well, they're just coming off the assembly line now. And now demons are literally just autographing the bullets and shell casings. They want you to know. You see this with Islamic terrorism, another form of, another variation of demoniacs. Where after they bomb a discotheque or a suburb or a hospital, Hezbollah, Hamas. It was us. We're taking credit. We even used that language. They took credit for it. They want you to know this is our handiwork. You saw this with Charlie shooter. You see this with the ICE shooter today. Now we're just, we're just autographing. We're proud of this. And why would you not be if you thought you were stopping literal Nazis? Who's ashamed of stopping Nazis? We give medals to the people that stopped the Nazis. We name buildings after them. So how many demagogueries does it take to create an armada of assassins and terrorists? It took a while. Those birth pangs, Floyd Lee Corkins 2012, the softball shooting 2017, that came a little slowly, but then that inventory line begins to really crank up. This is the fourth one in the last 2 weeks of some variation. And it's legion now. I use that word on purpose. We are legion. For we are many. No shame, no self-awareness. Just Jimmy Kimmel wants you to know that he believes in the teachings of Jesus too. Here's what you need to understand. There's literally no audience for Jimmy Kimmel. At least not to the degree that probably many of you think or would understand. There's all kinds of figures on the right, a couple of them like Mark Levin and Glenn Beck at this network, that if they hosted a Twitter space, it would get more engagement and traffic and generate more engagement and traffic than an episode of Jimmy Kimmel on how many ABC platforms on linear television all over the country. More people that are 25 to 54 will download this podcast today than will watch most day parts on CNN. Glenn Beck, Tucker Carlson, Ben Shapiro, they will likely receive more downloads today than the entire 12A to 12P day part for MSNBC and CNN. So you might ask yourself, well then, how is this still on the air? Who's watching this? Who's paying attention to any of this? How are these guys making all kinds of this money? Well, to quote the Joker, and notice he says this when he lights a big wad of bills on fire. It's not about the money, it's about sending a message. There's no advertisers to call anymore. Frankly, it's amazing that Sinclair and Nexstar have held out for as long as they have on this. There's no advertisers to bang the drum on anymore. You're just going to call, how many subsidiaries does George Soros have? You know who to call at the Pfizer offices? Good luck to you. I don't know either. There's no advertisers to bang on. Disney could have reversed course 5 flops ago. They just keep churning them out. This whole marketplace of ideas does not exist. The marketplace of ideas is actually what originally happened to Jimmy Kimmel. He threw something out there into the marketplace of ideas. The marketplace was like, that's not an idea we're really down for. People responded accordingly. That's actually the marketplace of ideas, as Aaron brilliantly pointed out on this show last week. What's really happening here is what's called affinity advertising, which is a nice way of saying subsidy. And we have this on our side too, where you really see it as in like sports media. A lot of times major corporations do not really believe they're going to get a huge return on investment on advertising on, home team use radio broadcast that almost no one listens to anymore because no one listens to radio really. They just do it because we like home team U. The CEO's an alum. Looks good. Affinity advertising. Expecting any kind of ROAS, return on, ad dollar spent. You're not expecting anything like that. You're just doing it because you have other reasons why. Jimmy Kimmel, everyone's aware. Everyone at ABC and Disney knows who's watching. They know the numbers better than we do. And all the advertisers know, too, that the phones aren't ringing by advertising on Jimmy Kimmel. They know this. So why is he making 20, 30, 40 million a year, whatever it is? Why? Because it's not about the money. It's about sending a message. He's there to be a vessel of propaganda. That's why. There's no marketplace of ideas for that. There's no one to bang on for that. It really would not matter if we all stopped watching. It really wouldn't. He'd just keep doing it. If anything, Jimmy Kimmel's largest audience is alternative media on the right, taking his clips for years and crap posting about them. Same thing with The View. The View will generate way more engagements and reactions from us than they can on their own. And that's pretty much true of all of their media outlets and all of their content. And there's no one to bang on in these realms. They don't care what you think. They hate you. Similar to, in the kingdom, well, I'm going to donate to the Billy Graham Crusade. I'm going to advertise on the Billy Graham Crusade. I don't really think people are going to call up, and buy Clorox bleach. Just the CEO here, or whatever, of Acme Company A just really loves Billy Graham and his message. So, this is an affinity buy. I'm donating I want a message out there. I want to be a good steward of the resources my God gave me, and I want his messengers to be elevated by the resources God gave me. Well, that's what Jimmy Kimmel is. His God is making sure, the God of this world, his God is making sure that his message gets out there. Ratings and numbers be damned. Because it's a shibboleth of the damned. That's the point. And when you get to this point, where there really are no market forces you can really corporately exert, you have to understand what time it is and where we are. The people putting him on the air and producing all these flops recently at Disney, they're not dumb, like we keep saying. They are well aware of what they are doing. They're nihilists. They're deconstructionists. They're iconoclasts. They're here to smash the stained glass windows. They're doing this on purpose. They want to inject what we call rotgut into the culture because it's doctrine to them. It's creedal to them. And when we reach this point of no return, we have the following two options, and we only have these two options. There isn't another option. There isn't a third way. There's no other option but these two. You will either A, use the pre-existing rules that we all inherited from our forefathers to punish them for their wickedness. What is the point of an FCC then if being able to threaten somebody's public license because you don't like what they're spewing into the ether, what is the point then? Then just stop funding. You can't on one hand be a senator that votes for budgets that funds the FCC and then on the other hand says, but we can't actually use it for what it was intended for. Choose one. Choose one. I don't really care which one it is. I can make either one of them work. Here's what I can't make work when we choose neither. When we're going to fund the FCC, but then say it cannot do what it was there to do. That I won't go with. We can't do that. Let me tell you what that is. That's this. And look at your children and grandchildren. Put that big fat L, moronic L, right there on your forehead, and then beg for their forgiveness preemptively for making them take it. So here are your choices. Either we will enforce the pre-established rules and use the power invested in us constitutionally, lawfully, at a statutory level by said pre-established rules to punish the evil, or then we will play by the left's new rules that they want to impose on us and have to then turn around and impose those on them. Now, for me personally, since the latter is very nihilistic, I would way more prefer the former. Because it was working out pretty well when we had more balls and character as a people than we currently do. I would much rather prefer to play by the righteous rules that includes avenging angels and swords of righteousness against evildoers than I would by adopting the nihilism of the other side. But here's what I will not do. What I will not do is join the convent of the Sisters of the Perpetually Furrowed Brow and Bishop Mike Pence and the magisterium of actually and self-emasculation so that we will then police on each other rules the other side is shredding to our ruin. That I will not do. And I don't care if we work together, if we were friends, I will condemn it. Because as much as I like you and care about you, my kids come first. And I'm not going to look at them with the big fat L on the forehead and try to explain to them why daddy didn't do anything with the platform he had so they didn't have to take that L. That's not an option. So choose. Again, my preference way more is to follow the righteous rules because they come out of my worldview. Revealed to us by the only undefeated being in the history of the cosmos. So we either do what he says with those rules, which includes enforcing them, punishing people who deserve it, avenging innocent blood lawfully. We will either do that, or new voices will emerge, and they're already emerging, who will demand we start playing by the left's more nihilistic rules now. And boy, howdy, people are going to flood to their ranks and already are. But this idea that we're just going to sit here in this third way and emasculate ourselves, and we're going to hold ourselves to some hyper tradition and decorum, while the other side of this supposed e pluribus unum is out there just defiling itself and has demonstrated it's divorced itself from this covenant we think we're still supposedly in on a civic level. Not an option. That is just a defeat. You might be comfortable rhetorically with that. It might fit with where you prefer to be philosophically, but it is not where we actually are. We have to live in the world as it is, not in the world as we want it to be. We already have a movement in America that thinks they can conjure truth. We don't need to join them. So those are your options. Todd and Aaron, your thoughts.
Imagine Steve's face on that gif of Matthew McConaughey emaciated, smoking a heater. Because that's got to be how he feels when he tells you, as he has over the years, that worldview is destiny, and he knows in his heart that the demonic left believes him more in that moment than the church does.
Correct.
That's appalling. But that's why he put in his movie, hey, I didn't know it was a fight. That's why you're losing. So if your reaction to Jimmy Kimmel was when he says, I believe in the teachings of Jesus too, if you're blanching at that, be careful. Think to yourself, do you identify that same malaise at all? Because the simple truth of the matter is most of the church is a lot closer to saying those words and doing nothing, just like Jimmy Kimmel is, than what we need in this moment.
Wife texted me a few minutes after we got on the air, asked me how the morning was going. I said, fine, a little frenetic, had to make some last-minute alterations to the montage, but overall okay. She said, okay, well, was there some breaking news? And I said, yeah, Lefty tried to shoot at some ICE agents this morning. And she responded and she said, she's just being nice, trying to have converse. Wow, they're really just shooting at everybody they don't like, aren't they? Yeah.
Pretty much.
Yep. Yeah. So you can wax poetic about, ain't no fun when the rabbits got the gun. They're telling you already they've got guns. They're rabid rabbits, and they're quoting Marx as they write anti-ICE slogans on bullets as they try to shoot law enforcement. What more do you need? There are too many people, I fear, in leadership that just don't understand what moment this is.
More in a moment. So we know that President Trump is fighting for interest rates to drop. I guess we just had a modest one, but even if they drop more, you still need to realize to cash in on that, you've got to have a high enough credit score. So how can you get there? Well, with our friends over at Smart Credit, on average, Smart Credit users raise their credit score up to 34 points in just 30 days. So imagine that would lead to a lower car payment, better mortgage rates, major savings in your own personal budget and cash flow situation. Smart Credit's patented technology scans your credit profile and pinpoints exactly which bills to pay and when. That's right. It's not really just as simple as, hey, I got a big inheritance. Let me go pay off all my debt right now, and my credit score will be 750 tomorrow. Yeah, it should work that way. It should. But it kind of doesn't. Right? And that's why you need their help to help you maximize your score. It's like having that best credit knowledge right there in your pocket. So don't wait. Take control of your credit score with Smart Credit and be ready to cash in when those interest rates fall. You can start with your 7-day trial at smartcredit.com/Steve, smartcredit.com/Steve. And for just $1, see how many points you can add to your credit score. That's smartcredit.com/Steve, smartcredit.com/Steve. And average points changes are based on historical data. Individual results may vary and are not guaranteed. Let's talk to a guy who helped get some results last week here with Jimmy Kimmel and his show after his comments trying to blame MAGA for the shooting of essentially the most influential thought leader of MAGA, Charlie Kirk. Our good friend Auron MacIntyre here with us. Good to see you again, brother. How are you?
Doing well. Thanks for having me.
So tell me why you decided to kind of take the flag here on Jimmy Kimmel, and you thought this was a fight worthy of waging.
You know, I don't think any of us really like the tattletale cancel culture thing. It's not really right wing. It doesn't feel incredibly masculine. But as I saw Jimmy Kimmel just blatantly lying about Charlie Kirk and who had killed him, and it was very clear why Jimmy Kimmel was doing that, because he wanted to cover for more terrorism. He wanted to excuse the violence on his side, send a message to the next terrorist that Jimmy Kimmel will lie on your behalf and try to cover up your crimes, the motive for your crimes. When I saw that, I said, this has to end. This has to end. And then I woke up in the morning and I recognized we can end it. That's something we can do. We don't have to wait for the Trump administration to get off its butt. We don't have to wait for Pam Bondi to put both brain cells together. We don't have to wait for Kash Patel to pretend he's at the head of some kind of law enforcement agency. We can do this. And so I gathered up as many sponsors as I could find, connections to Disney, others, tried to get their information out. As I began the campaign, I had many others pour in and say, hey, I got better contact information. Here are more Disney executives who you need to call. Here are people at ABC that you can get directly to. Unbeknownst to me, at the same time, Benny Johnson was pressuring on the affiliate side, doing great work there, speaking with the FCC, asking if this was a violation of the broadcast agreement. And so between, I think, a kind of a pincer move of kind of more the advertiser and, ABC side on one side, and then the affiliates and the FCC there, we were able to come together and at least for a few days for some accountability. Of course, Jimmy Kimmel came back on air, lied again, did not apologize. But several affiliates, several large affiliate networks have refused to continue to air his stuff. Sinclair and Nexstar, I hope they stay committed to that, because Jimmy Kimmel did not apologize. He did not show any kind of ultimately any kind of sorrow over what he had done or how he had lied to his audience. He just attacked Donald Trump again after saying, okay, I guess Erica Kirk isn't so bad because she said she forgave him. I think Jimmy Kimmel believes and meant everything he said. I think he continues to believe and mean everything he says. And we can already see in the aftermath of this shooting at the ICE facility, the left is already using the Jimmy Kimmel strategy. We already see several influencers on X with large left-wing accounts running out and running cover for what is obviously another left-wing attack. We already have evidence. This bullet is for ICE scrawled on the rounds. But they're already throwing, all kinds of conspiracies out there because the Jimmy Kimmel effect works, and they know it, and they're going to keep doing it because they think there is no cost.
What's the remedy here? There is a tension on our side, and I've spoken privately about this with my old boss Ted Cruz, for example. There's this notion, but I also went and essentially eulogized Charlie at Jim DeMint's group in D.C. last week. And I said, I don't want to hear anymore. If we do this, they'll do this to us. They're already doing all of those things. That doesn't mean, I'm a Christian. Biblical worldview is at the apex of how I do this show. You and I both spoke in an event earlier this year where I wanted to make it very clear we still have to love our neighbor as we love ourselves as Christians, that I do not believe on the authority of God's word. He will bless us if we abandon the second tablet of the law. But I also believe that the last generation, particularly of evangelicalism, abandoned the first tablet of the law and said it was just totally fine to offend our vertical relationship with God, provided we didn't offend other people. So we're trying to figure this all out right now, Auron. We're trying to navigate all of this. I think, though, the two options on the table are what follows. One, we either actually enforce the rules of the established covenant given to us by our forefathers that comes out of a largely Christian worldview, and we either use that power and authority to be the avenging angel that Paul talks about in Romans 13 as the only reason God even allows government on the earth, even allows sinners to even govern each other, is to punish evil. We either do that, and so in this case, we have a thing called the FCC, right? Well, then, you can't be a senator and on one hand vote to fund the FCC, and then on the other hand say, but we don't want the FCC to do any of the stuff that we gave it the funding for. It's one or the other. It's either, okay, then everybody gets to say whatever they want, no regulation, and get rid of the FCC, or then if we're going to have one, then absolutely the marketplace of ideas should be able to file complaints and say, hey, that goes against the standards of what we would publicly license as a community. So I think we either have to enforce the old rules we all inherited of the pre-established civic covenant here and punish their evil, which we're not doing, or people are going to say, well, that means then we have to play by the more nihilistic, Alinskyite rules of the other side, because those are the new rules and we have to impose those on them. But this idea that there's a middle option here where we just hold ourselves to some decorum in tradition while not using the power we actually have, I mean, that's just a way to take one of the biggest L's in human history. So we can't do that. So those are the only two options. And I think this is a tension we're going to have to discuss and debate openly amongst our side. What are your thoughts on what I just said?
I agree that that's the tension, but I think it's also time to just break that with a sledgehammer. We can't play this game anymore. It's not like there were, Christian civilizations didn't understand how to stop terrorists. They didn't understand how to stop crazy factions in their society from murdering them. Part of loving your neighbor is maintaining order in your society. Your neighbor benefits from an orderly society, whether they recognize it or not. So I don't care if you think that me stopping someone from celebrating the murder of a father in front of his children, a political assassination. I don't care if you think that somehow that isn't me loving a neighbor. It is, because someday they're going to come for you. They will come for another one of your neighbors. And it's not my job to just exclusively care about my left-wing neighbors. If people are coming to murder my conservative neighbors, then loving them means standing up against this violence. And there is no real tension between stopping lies about a murder and free speech. Free speech is not, you can testify in court and lie about who killed who. That doesn't work. That's not how that works. We all recognize that actually free speech is about communicating political viewpoints. I don't want anyone canceled for wanting higher taxes or socialized medicine or eating the rich with some death tax. It's all stupid. I stand against it, but I don't want anyone arrested or fired for supporting gay marriage. I do want them fired if they are lying specifically about a terrorist act in order to enable more terrorism. I do want the FCC to do its job and enforce the rules that it has placed on the broadcast licenses. These major corporations are given a free chunk of public domain under the understanding that they will not deceive the public in the way that Jimmy Kimmel is doing. There is zero tension between the deployment of righteous government force to stop murder and free speech. There just isn't. I'm sorry. This is not hard. We can have a larger discussion about whether we should be throwing people in jail for accusing people of fascism, but that isn't even what we're talking about here. We're just saying you can't publicly lie on purpose to try to get more people killed and maintain an FCC license. That's not abuse of government. There is no tension here. This is all a false dichotomy. These are lies that have been fed to the conservative movement by Republican politicians because they're cowards. They're cowards. They're gutless cowards. And if you don't see this at this moment, then you are useless.
Let me play the advocate for the other side then, which is if they do this, if we do what you just suggested, when they gain power, they will do this to us. Well, Steve, you just said you don't want to hear this anymore. And I did. I mean, I sat in a room at a fundraiser for Jim DeMint with at least a half a dozen members of Congress, including Rand Paul and Lauren Boebert, were in this room as I said this. But this is the position that there are people that also have large followings and platforms and hold elected office on our side are saying this. So I want to give you the chance to respond. If we do what you just said, they will use the FCC. I mean, National Religious Broadcasters just came out and condemned the idea of using the FCC to take Jimmy Kimmel off the airwaves and said, hey, the Democrats will just come after Christians communicating the gospel on TV if we go with this precedent. How would you respond to that?
I would respond by calling these people controlled opposition, cowards, sympathetic to terrorism. I'm done playing games with these people. I'm done giving these people the benefit of the doubt or that they're standing on principle somewhere. We just got a realization from YouTube that the Biden administration pressured them to censor all accurate information about the pandemic.
I was one of the people they censored. Believe me, trust me. I know. Okay, I know.
It's not. It's not a question of will the left do this when they're in power, because we did it. We didn't do it, and they did it anyway. And they get back to power. They're doing it again. So at this point, if you are making the argument, and I know you're just playing devil's advocate, but to the people who make that argument, the very real people who are still somehow this delusional, my answer is you are a vile coward. You're a gutless piece of slime. You are worthless. You are worse than worthless because you are preventing a proper response that could save this country. So I just don't have time for these people. I'm not arguing with them anymore. They should be sitting in the trash bin of history where they belong. I don't believe that they believe this on principle anymore. I do not believe it. And the only answer left is that they are cowards who are specifically being paid to hold back what needs to happen here, which is a righteous application of justice under the color of law. I'm not calling for anything crazy. I'm not calling for anything extrajudicial. I'm asking the government to do its job. The job it has been given this exact power to do, that the left has violated over and over again, knowing that you were too cowardly to do anything about it. And if you are still out there pushing the idea that the government cannot enforce the law because maybe at some point the left will do to us what they have been doing for a decade or more, I do not have time for you. You are either stupid or you are being paid to destroy the United States. I don't care which. I just want you to shut up and let us solve this problem.
Where do we go from here then when we reach a point, as I explained to the audience before you came on, where there is no real marketplace of ideas, where people are sponsoring Jimmy Kimmel knowing he has very low ratings, knowing they're not going to get a ROAS on their buy. But as the Joker said, it's not about the money. It's about sending a message that they just want him. They're subsidizing intentionally his injection of this rot gut into the culture. And that's the same for The View, whose ratings are probably gets more ratings, frankly, from rage post on our own side in response than they can actually generate organically on their own. All right, that's true of almost all of the programming on CNN, MSNBC, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Where do we go then when the marketplace of ideas is it can't work because it's just not open. It's not available. It wouldn't matter how many emails we sent, how many calls we had. They just want this injected into the culture regardless of cost. What happens next?
Well, Steve, for a while here, me and some guys like me have been trying to explain where politics was going. That we were moving out of what I think is a better mode of politics, a preferable mode of politics, the one in which we can have discussions and have debate, and moving back towards what politics has been through most of history, which is existential. Now, don't get me wrong. I would prefer the world where Charlie Kirk uses facts and logic to win people over. But they murdered Charlie Kirk, and they're going to murder the next guy on college campuses. Make no mistake. They are going to come for the next guy. We are on the other side of the Rubicon, whether we like it or not. Like that, we have crossed into a different mode of politics. Some of us were warning it was coming. We were called crazy, woke, dangerous, fascist by people on our own side for pointing this out. And here we are. And I'm not saying that because this is I told you so, or what I want is the right to finally take this seriously and recognize where we are. In his book, Thoughts on Machiavelli, Leo Strauss talks about how eventually republics always decay away from their original founding, their original understanding. As our own founder said, it takes a large amount of virtue to operate a society like this, and it doesn't work otherwise. And if you want to restore order, if you want to restore things back to the way that they were, you might have to step outside the system to return the system back. So I want a place where we are debating and discussing things nonviolently to resolve these issues. But that takes a certain amount of shared cultural, religious identity, a certain amount of shared values, a certain amount of shared understanding. And we are well beyond the point where we share enough in common to talk these things out. When you talk to a leftist, they simply do not hold the morality you do. They do not hold the views that you do. We have to stop pretending that they do. You are not going to win them over that way. What you can do is use the force of the state under the color of law to punish the people who are worst offenders about this. A large amount of what the left has been able to do and get away with is the fact that we have just given them a blank check for violence for decades. This didn't start with Donald Trump. We have been watching the left have riots, race riots, assassinations, bombings, death threats, swatting, all the time, constantly, almost all pointed at the right on a continuous basis. And we have done nothing. All we have to do is exercise the actual rules in the law. And that will at least force the left back to the table. Right now, they don't think they need to be at the table because violence works. They know that terrorism works. They see it working. So they're going to keep doing it. The only way we can restore order, restore us back to a place where guys like Charlie Kirk can argue, is to create a society in which he can walk onto a college campus without fear. And I don't really care what it takes to get us to the point where Charlie Kirk can walk on a campus without fear. I don't want another dead conservative commentator just because we're worried about the left's feelings.
Auron, good to see you, brother. Thank you for joining us. Take care.
Thanks for having me.
You bet. We'll get some reaction from you guys and go buy, sell, or hold next. All right, stay tuned. All right, back here with Hour 2, live and on demand on Blaze TV, radio, and podcast. I'm Steve Deace with Todd Erzen and Auron MacIntyre and all of you. And you guys can let us know what you think about what we think via the stevedeace.com inbox by emailing us, steve@stevedeace.com. That's DEACE. Like us on Facebook, MeWe, and Gab. You can follow me at Steve Deace Show on X, Instagram, and TikTok. Please subscribe to our new YouTube channel, at Deace Show on YouTube. That's at Deace Show on YouTube. You can also subscribe to the podcast if you like that part of the program. Thank you. You guys are the biggest part of our audience, so we appreciate you. Hit subscribe, or if you're on Apple iTunes, you hit follow instead, and that's how you'll know for sure you are subscribed. And that way, every time we do a new episode, it's in your podcast feed every single time. And you can also remember to please leave us a 5-star review. Tens of thousands of you have done that. Appreciate each and every one of those, and appreciate all of those to come in the future. Maybe that future is as soon as today. So thank you for those too. And thanks to our friends over at Select Quote. If you're new to life insurance, you're not alone. For over 40 years, though, Select Quote has helped more than 2 million Americans understand their options and get the coverage they need. That's over $700 billion with a B, $700 billion in coverage and counting. Now, as a broker, their mission is simple. Right? They're here to find the right insurance policy at the best price for you. They're not here on behalf of the company. They're here on behalf of you. All right? Select Quote takes the guesswork out of finding the right life insurance policy so that you don't have to sort through dozens of confusing options all on your own. Instead, one of their licensed agents will find the right policy at the right price for you, comparing plans from trusted top-rated companies to find a policy that fits your health, your lifestyle, and most importantly, your budget. And maybe this actually is most importantly, they work for you for free. Life insurance, never cheaper than it is right now, so get the right one for you for less and save more than 50%. at selectquote.com/Steve. Save more than 50% on term life insurance right now at selectquote.com/Steve to get started. That's selectquote.com/Steve. All right, before we get to buy, sell, or hold, I thought that that was a tour de force from Auron MacIntyre a few minutes ago. And I wanted to make sure he got all the time he needed to finish the points he was trying to make, because this is a debate that we're going to have on our side. We are going to have this debate. And frankly, as a side note to this debate, is there are actually people that would say amen to everything Auron just said, but because they have different views of Israel and prophecy, now we're going to argue about that, and that's going to color everything else that we're talking. We're trying to survive right now as a civilization. We need to survive as a people. That is our number one priority, is survival. It is not settling a prophetic eschatological debate that has raged for 2,000 years and will likely outlive all of us. I know some of you are disappointed the rapture didn't happen yesterday. We have to survive as a people. And so we do need to have this very conversation right now, which is why I wanted to give Auron all the time he needed, at least the amount of time I had for him to make it. So I want to give you two guys who listen to all of that, I want to give you two guys the time that you need to respond, and then we'll get to buy, sell, or hold.
Yeah, I love that he just, when you presented the devil's advocate that's clearly out there, he just gave the Tommy Lee Jones, I don't care. He's
from The Fugitive?
From The Fugitive, yeah. He's absolutely right. That's where we are. I'm also reminded of another movie, I Am Legend, at the end there, where Will Smith, it's like he has a grenade, he's pulled the pin, and he's trying to beg like the zombie. Like, don't you understand? But that's the thing. It's Auron, as much as he was talking about the left and the fact that you can't negotiate with them, Auron is very much having the same conversation with the so-called humana right. Honestly, which side is more deranged? That's really the question that Auron was begging there. It's a neck-and-neck race on who is more convicted, the demonic left in their violence or the slouching towards Gomorrah right, the furrowed brow Mike Pence's. This was a perfect partner to everything you talked about, Steve, who will see all this happening and still try to choose the third way. This is where I think when I said last week that I'm sorry, but the American experiment is just quite frankly dead. This isn't a recovery effort. It'll be a flat out resurrection, because everything that is trending right now, the fact that Auron is just saying, why? This isn't complicated. I'm not being nuanced. This was obvious to every grown man, Christian or otherwise. Even the pagans of the past, have laid out, Steve, knew that this cannot stand. But here we are. Because as I just got to reset once again, if you sat there and heard and just queued up your laugh track, oh, Jimmy Kimmel thinks he understands Jesus and follows Jesus too. Honestly, in terms of what you hear, even if you're going to church, and then what you mete out in terms of what you must be obedient to, how are you really different from Jimmy Kimmel? Once again, honestly, those guys are way more committed to carrying out worldview than you are on most occasions at the end of the day. And you've got all kinds of excuses for why you have to be a non-con, but Auron is right. All your excuses need to be met with this: I don't care.
I just find it rather grating and concerning that apparently Auron, our colleague, pays no mind to the slew of right-wing conservative late-night hosts that could be affected and impacted should Democrats ever get into power again. I just think that is something that we're all overlooking here, because there are so many right-wing late-night comedy hosts on all of the networks.
How about Jimmy Kimmel can come back if Charlie can come back? How's that?
Yeah, there you go.
I think that's a fair trade.
Yeah,
what do you think?
that's a fine trade. To all of these individuals who attempt to make this argument, it's just the same variation of this. Ain't no fun when the rabbit's got the gun. I can understand that argument. It wasn't true back then in hindsight, but hindsight is 2020. I can understand that argument 10, 15, 20 years ago. Probably wasn't true then. It's definitely not true now.
Mm-hmm.
To everybody who's saying, well, what about if the Democrats get into power again? They're going to use the precedent that we just set here. They already did. That's one that's been established. That was just established yesterday. I thought we all agreed to that. Using that has just become an excuse for cowardice and inaction. You know, I heard yesterday Gavin Newsom say that if he's elected as president, anybody tying their shoelaces will be a criminal. So instead of tying my shoelaces, I'm just going to get some Velcro sneakers now. It's just an excuse for a white flag on everything. If we were living in an intact social compact arena, yes, those arguments would be, you would really have to parse those arguments, but we do not live in that world. So here is my proposal. Here's my proposal for anybody with a title or anybody in an organization like NRB, you mentioned them in passing, who has a seat at the table. Why do they have a seat at the table? Why? What's the purpose? Just because it's fun to have a seat at the table? I sure hope not, although I have my doubts. But the stated purpose of just, having a seat at the table is that you're in proximity to what? Power. And so that those in power will what? Listen to you. Why? So that they will use their power to your benefit and hopefully everyone's benefit. Here's my proposal for anybody with a title of authority, for anybody in an organization with a seat at the table, and you're worried about the precedent that's being set here. Given that we've already seen the left, despite our best efforts, maybe, probably not, but despite our best efforts to still play by the rules, to still play by the constitutional rules, and they have completely ignored that. Here's what you should be cheering for. You should be cheering that anybody in a position of power, and there are a lot of people who, at least on paper, agree with you in a position of power, do everything within their power legally to ensure that those who did not play by your rules and broke your rules have the hardest possible path to reaching power ever again. Mm-hmm. That's what you should be fighting for. Mm-hmm. Instead, what you're fighting for is nothing. It's inaction. It's waving the white flag. What you're fighting for is selling out and betraying us and our progeny. That's what you're fighting for. So it's time to dispense with the notion. Ain't no fun when the rabbit's got the gun. We saw what it was like when the rabbit had the gun. The rabbit had dementia. The rabbit, as I said, was foaming at the mouth, quoting Marx, while aiming its weapon at us. We already saw it. They don't care about the rules. They never really did. But there's still time. But a lot less than there ever has been. I understand that taking down the power structures on the left, from the bottom up or from the top down, that's going to be akin to playing a game of whack-a-mole. But it's going to take a whole of government approach. It really is. I'm talking about whole of government, led by the DOJ, of course. But every single agency, I'm talking about Department of Labor, I'm talking about Department of Education, I'm talking about every single department to root out these forces that want us dead, would rather enslave us, yes, but since we didn't give them that luxury last election, they're just telling us now, then we'll kill you. 20 years ago called, it said, we want our arguments back. There's just no excuse anymore.
Aaron is right on there, man. We're learning. We know that we know that it ain't no fun when the rabbit's got the gun because he has the gun right now. We need to take the gun away from the rabbit. That requires power. That requires authority. And it requires that power and authority to then act in accordance therein. Otherwise, it's going to continue to not be fun while the rabbit has the gun. The rabbit has the gun now. Take the gun away from the rabbit. Make sure the rabbit can't get the gun again. That will require punishing said rabbit. Otherwise, the rabbit's going to keep teaching us that it ain't no fun when he has the gun. Let's get to buy, sell, or hold. Brought to you by our friends over at Real Estate Agents I Trust, because in these unprecedented times, make sure you've got an agent that can help guide you through what has become a tumultuous process, a real estate market. We really haven't had a vibrant one since the late fall 2019, the fall before COVID, that winter. So a lot's changed, including the interest rates and the prices. Make sure you've got an agent to help you navigate those changes. Where would you find them? Where the name says it all. RealestateAgentsITrust.com. You go there. We're going to hook you up with an agent, whether you're trying to get across town, trying to go across the country, who is either from the area you're in or the area you want to get to, and has a proven track record of success that we've verified. Otherwise, we wouldn't recommend them to you. A lot of times they come from right here in the audience at the Blaze, so you've got that value system in common as well. That just is another value added there of confidence. You want to make sure you've got the kind of agent to help you navigate a difficult process that you're going to be recommending to the people you care about later. You'll find that agent at realestateagentsitrust.com. You guys know the rules. You have entered your submissions into Aaron's X account. Todd and I have not seen any of these submissions. Aaron has chosen the ones that we will address. We will buy it, sell it. We are permitted to use the hold, but if we do, you have committed an act of such emasculation that I'm going to come up with a fate even more terrible than anything degrading in front of Lindsey Graham. Todd, if you use your hold today, you have to go on the Auron MacIntyre show and make the argument to Auron and his audience that if we do these things to the left, they're going to turn around and do them to us. Or worse. And then where would we be? Because that is a fate far worse than whatever could be conjured from the literal bowels of Lindsey Graham's depraved mind. You will have to make the most emasculating case in American politics on Auron MacIntyre's show to him and his audience.
Oh, that's easy. I'll do that. I will do that, but it'll be like C.S. Lewis writing the Screw Tape Letters. I'm just going to embody
a self-parody.
Yeah, the worst, and just let her rip. Yeah, so
fair enough. All right, Aaron, it's their turn. Fire when ready.
Let's begin with David Guadalupe, who says, I said, send me your finest buy, sell, or hold suggestions. And David says, nah, you guys have managed to screw this up too. You don't deserve any help from the audience, who you so often sneered at, barked at, bellowed at. They're not listening. You're way too comfortable, we say, apparently. I got sick of how you three clowns demeaned us a while ago. Bitch more. Buy, sell, or hold. Do you get it for Feedback Friday? This happens every now and then, but for like Ask Deace Anything, Todd, do you ever see responses like, no, this is supposed to be your job. I'm doing your job for you. I get that all the time with buy, sell, or hold.
Aaron, was this going to be the first thing you read no matter what today?
Yeah.
Okay, see, the providential timing, it's so perfect. We're talking about you. Yes. We have Auron talking about you. Steve talking about you. Me talking about you. You wouldn't have to step up like this. It doesn't have to be you, but you're drawn to this. You just need to out yourself like this. I'm out and proud and I don't care who knows it. Okay.
I'm buying every word of that. Are you kidding me? Every syllable, in fact. Yes. Every last one.
Amazing.
Both the consonants and the vowels. You bet. Buying it.
So and then just the one point about to what you said, Aaron, like there's not many shows that do like calls like the old days anymore. I can't think of, is there any show that finds ways to pay you back for your time, talent, and treasure by letting you, in multiple ways, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, at the very least, being involved in this show? I mean, Steve's constantly saying thank you to you by that. And you're saying, he's making me have a second job. I don't want a side hustle. Come on, man. Why do you think it's so easy for me to tee off on Sports Bro, toy lightsabers, and video games? And a non-con? Because you're like, it's me! It's me! My goodness. Just say thank you to the man. He lets you participate.
I buy the whole thing. I buy the whole thing. Yes.
Next, we go to Kate Cornell, who says if it was President Harris, Charlie Kirk's memorial would not be as big as it was, and we would know as much about the Robinson assassin as we know about Crooks.
I'll buy on both sides of that. Yeah. And this thing would have been linked to anybody who, I mean, I'm old enough to remember when Bill Clinton tried to blame Rush Limbaugh for Timothy McVeigh. That was 30 years ago. So, I mean, this would have been blamed on anybody with any righty with a blue check mark, and maybe anybody they've ever even shaken hands with or been introduced to. You bet. And it also had a way smaller audience at the exact same time. That is, both of the first two submissions are cash money homie for diametrically opposite reasons, okay? But they are both right on the money, both spot on. Yes.
Buy. And another way you can know this is by just looking at the smile on Goebbels Tapper's faces right now when he goes on the comedy circuit and says, without shame, he knows he's lying. The lie is the point. He knows he's lying. And he says, wow, this is the most egregious thing. On the very day of the YouTube thing, I've never seen anything like this in my life. When you participated in how many? Yourself. Russiagate. Hiding Biden. COVID. Bye.
Next, we go to ID Crisis. Says they say you can't take it with you when you die, but Charlie Kirk managed to take the gray area. I took this to mean third wayism.
100%. Dude, we are on a roll. You guys have brought this. You brought it this week. 3 for 3. I mean, what Charlie Kirk demonstrated, and it's what I said on the show earlier this week, he ended once and for all the putrid milquetoast pablum of the triumvirate papacy of Hybels, Warren, and Osteen. He ended it. Now, they will still have their adherents, but they are on the ash heap of ecclesiology. Now, they have been completely disproven. Charlie actually demonstrated that it's the strong witness against the spirit of the age, the willingness to go to hurting people with the truth, to go to deceived people with the truth. Jesus said, for this reason, I came into this world to testify to the truth. Those are his exact words in the 18th chapter of John. For this reason, I came into the world to testify to the truth. And the Lord used Charlie as a sledgehammer. This Charlie ended up, in his own way, even though he was the best of us, the most courteous, kindest of us. I never even heard Charlie say a swear word in private one time. Not once. Nevertheless, just as God used Samson to smash the shibboleth of the damned of the Philistines, the temple to the fish demon Dagon with his very last act. That's ultimately Samson's legacy. That's Samson's final legacy is that act. This is Charlie's legacy. I mean, the Lord literally picked him up and said, smash, and used him to just smash the canard of whatever the complete waste of time, talent, and treasure the last quarter century plus of American evangelicalism has become. He absolutely obliterated it. Hallelujah.
Amen. Smash the idols, all of them. You bet.
Scott McKenzie, switching things up a little bit. This is the worst ever era of American pop culture. Buy, sell, or hold.
Oh, buy. It's just,
worse.
It's dreck.
Worse than Because listen, the content quality of the counterculture was high. Right? The music they produced, the content quality was high. But much of the messaging of that era set the stage for exactly everything that is undoing us right now. So are we talking worst in terms of the caliber of content? Because if we're talking caliber of content, I completely agree. If we're talking worst in terms of societal impact, I don't think anything will be as damaging as the counterculture. It's the origin, it's the genesis of everything that we're doing now. Everything. It's the feeder system.
I took this as when you're going to the grocery store or you're going to any department store where they play music. What do they have on the loudspeakers?
Yeah, we're getting Muzak Led Zeppelin or Muzak Auto-Tune today. Is that what you're saying?
At the most modern music they have is from like 15 years ago.
Yeah. Okay, so you took it as quality of content.
70s or 80s.
All right, if we're talking quality of content, I totally agree. I mean, even things like, guys, if you go watch a Lord of the Rings film and the CGI in a Lord of the Rings, not the ones that Jackson made later, the real ones. If you go watch the CGI, in fact, don't even like.
Well, there was very little CGI.
Don't even go watch like the updated versions. Like go get like the DVD versions of the Lord of the Rings prints of those films from when they came out, from 2001 to 2003, right? They came out 3 successive years, correct? All right. So we're talking 20 plus years now. The CGI that they do use in those films is way ahead of a lot of the CGI that you see nowadays. It's like in some respects, it's got almost worse. The CGI, I would argue, in the first Jurassic Park film from 1993 is better than some of the CGI we see in films now. So if we're talking the caliber of the content, this is not debatable. If we're talking about its lack of what it's contributing society, then I do think it's debatable. So since Aaron, you took it as about the content but not the messaging, then I'll buy.
Yeah, either way, it's a closer conversation, I guess, but I still don't even think it's a debatable either way. It's because it's not even counterculture. It has just become normative to be stupid and demonic through and through. So, yeah, this is nasty.
Michael Relicki says, fantasy football, by its very definition, is sports bro.
Well, I'm in 3 leagues this year, including one with a whole bunch of people, right-wingers in D.C. So I guess then I got to own that and buy. Then if that's the case, then throw me into the sports bro camp. I'm in. Buy.
Is Sudoku a game, by definition, sports bro?
I don't know. I never really got into that, so I don't know.
Well, is Aaron, you're the interpreter. Does it mean that you are automatically a sports bro?
Yeah.
If you have a fantasy football team? I won't even go that far, but the odds are very, very high.
Next, we go to Steve Senny, who says it's frustrating that Christians on this very platform, X, still found something in Sunday's astonishing gospel presentation to complain about. Calvinism versus Reformed, penal substitutionary atonement versus not, etc. We need to do better.
Listen, I'm Catholic, but like there was no time out. Like they sola versus sola'd even harder afterwards. It was amazing.
I didn't see a lot of this. Was this really a thing?
Oh yes.
Because I actually watched the event.
Yeah.
So I didn't like get into the commentary on said event. I was watching the event. So I didn't follow a lot of the commentary. Was it really this systemic and this acute, or was it just a few? I mean, listen, there's 300 million people on X. Okay, was it really this much of an issue? I'm asking.
Yes.
Or did it just annoy you and that's why it became an issue? Or was it really this much of an issue?
That's not. It's not just a matter. It annoys me. It's because I'm right about these. Why did I just said to you before the show, your Monday opening is now being shared far and wide, by names, by people you've never heard, just like he's saying the thing I've tried to say. And how many times have I been telling you, as a Catholic, we need a Protestant Council of Trent, Council of Nicaea, coming together. It's because people, they can't wait on any given day to just. It's one thing to say the Benedict option from a Catholic perception, but you've said we have got to get smaller. We need to separate the wheat from the chaff. But there are people who have no hope in their heart that the wheat harvest is as large as possible. They want it tiny, infinitely small, absolutely certain they're the chosen ones and nobody else is. It would be beneath them to be part of such an endeavor to bring people together. No, I'm not. This is not it. And I don't do sports. It's not just because it's a personal thing that bothers me. We have obvious idolatry problems.
I guess I'm more. I completely make big issues out of things just because they annoy me. I'll own it. Right? So I don't, may not be a big issue, but it ticks me off, so I'll make it one. All right. So I'm completely prone to doing that. So don't take offense at me asking. I do it all the time. It's part of the human condition. You bet it's a big deal. I'm offended. So but here's the thing, Aaron, you chose this. Have you seen a lot of this?
Yes, I have.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. I mean, it's just like last night you quote tweeted something, Todd. Somebody said, I'm going to lose a lot of followers. I think I saw this.
Yes. Yes.
I'm going to lose a lot of followers for saying this, but if you believe everything the Catholic Church teaches, you're going to hell. That was the tweet. That was the post. And my reaction was, well, if you believe nothing the Catholic Church teaches, you're also going to hell as well.
So there's that. There's that.
And you believe apparently that every single person from, we've had this argument ad nauseum. I don't need to reset it.
I can't. I don't know what to say. I don't. I mean, again, how many other shows the size of ours or bigger have had a Theology Thursday segment every hour or every week for an hour, right? It's not like I don't think it's important, but I mean, come on, man, come on. Hey folks, you can help join the mission here at The Blaze by becoming a subscriber to Blaze TV and make sure that you get all the exclusive content that we do just for subscribers every day, like today's Overtime. We're not going to get through, for example, all of your buy, sell, or hold submissions, so the rest we're going to get through in the Overtime today. We'll record it right after today's show, and then it'll be uploaded at blazetv.com/Deace, and that's where you can go right now, too, to become a subscriber so you can watch that, all the other exclusive content we do. Really, all the exclusive content that's still out there we've ever done. You can go back and watch some of those things that you missed over the years, too. BlazeTV.com/Deace. Join the mission today. Become a subscriber with the promo code Deace. It'll cost you just 8 cents a day, or 26 cents a day, $8 a month with $20 off an annual subscription to BlazeTV.com with the code Deace. BlazeTV.com/Deace. Use the code Deace for the discount at BlazeTV.com/Deace. All right, we'll get through as many of these buy, sell, or hold submissions as we can. What is left, as I just said, will be left for the subscribers after the show. So, Aaron, let's pick it up where we left off.
Warm Gatorade is next, who says, studies have shown that the increase in autism rates have to do with broadening the spectrum and better diagnosis. Given this, autism is just another COVID, a way for pharmaceutical companies to make billions of dollars. Acetaminophen is just a smokescreen.
I'll let you take this one first.
Well, yes, it's a patsy. It is just a way to make a bunch of money. So largely, what was the first part, Aaron?
Studies have shown. So I'm not sure if this is right or not, but this is just the assertion that Warm Gatorade is putting out there. And Warm Gatorade is a faithful listener to the show, so I don't think they're doing this in bad faith at all. Studies have shown that increase in autism rates have to do with broadening the spectrum and better diagnosis. Yeah,
that's the part I'm because I disagree with that the most. I'm selling on that. You're your studies have shown are like the studies that, we were supposedly told by the experts on a lot of things. COVID, these are not... the fact that we've gotten a little better at identifying certain things doesn't mean that the total reality was much, much different in the past, as you don't have to take my word for it. Steve has done his research and has laid that part out for you.
So along those lines, I had someone send me a note that I wanted to share. And where is it at? It's in my inbox. Here we go. In regards to the show yesterday and your related societal media post on data calling into question the efficacy of the mass increase in vaccines since 1986, I brought this data to my wife. She's a staunch conservative herself, but she's also an accomplished epidemiologist. And she brought up an interesting point that I wanted to pass along to you. She argues that life expectancy data may not be the best metric for evaluating vaccine efficacy. Instead, she suggests, as an epidemiologist, analyzing child morbidity rates for the same time periods that you referenced. And this could provide maybe a clear impact on its, or clearer picture of the impact. By the way, we oppose vaccine mandates and support individual choice, but just a statistical suggestion. That's from Jake Copeland. And he wasn't the only one that suggested this. So I did do this, actually. And I want to, can I share that data with you?
Yeah, please.
All right. So the childhood morbidity rate in America in 1900 was anywhere from 100 to 150 deaths per 1,000 births. That's where it was in 1900. In 1985, that number declined from 10 to 12 per 1,000 births. Today, the number is 6.3 in the U.S. per 1,000 births. So the same pattern holds. A mass decrease in childhood morbidity from 1900 to 1985, before the vaccine manufacturer liability was put into place, before the amount of shots suggested, what is 17 divided by 81? What's that? Almost 5 times, right? Mm-hmm. Is that right? Is my math right on that? Because 5 times 17 be 85. Yeah. So almost 5 times. All right. So the same pattern holds. Mass improvement before mass vaccination and childhood morbidity from 1900 to 1985. Slight improvement from 1986 until now with childhood morbidity. So there was a slight improvement in the overall life expectancy too. So the front end of the data, which I agree, the reason why I wanted to do this is you guys are correct in asking me to point this out, because if I always say in philosophy, you can tell if something is a fallacy or not because the inverse of it must be true then too, right? Like when someone says everything is relative, that's a fallacy. Because the inverse of it cannot be true, because already what they just stated was an absolute. Not everything's relative. So the inverse can't possibly be true, right? So the inverse of something must be true too for it to avoid being a fallacy. So correct. The same trend should exist on the front end of life with childhood morbidity that exists on the back end of life with mass vaccination for a lifetime. Fair? Yeah. So I think it's a perfectly fair challenge. So here are the numbers again. They're more varied in 1900. The range is more varied because, again, we're in the transition from an agrarian to an urban society. We're in the midst of the ascendancy of the Industrial Revolution. So we still have mass areas. A lot of the country in 1900 doesn't have even running water or electricity yet. So in 1900, childhood morbidity was 100 to 150 deaths in America per 1,000 births. In 1985, that number went from 10 to 12. 10 to 12 deaths per 1,000 births. The number today is approximately 6.3 deaths per 1,000 births. So the exact same trend line that you saw that I pointed out yesterday exists when you look at it through the lens of childhood morbidity. Same trend line does. So we're back left to asking the same question again, which is the modest increase that we have seen since we started mass injecting all of these shots, that we cannot rely on the safety data that they're giving us, and then if something goes wrong, they're not liable for it, is that worth Does that math work? I don't think it does, but I think everyone within the sound of my voice should have the option of making that choice for themselves forevermore. Amen. Can I get a witness on that?
Here.
So
I had no idea what you were going to bring up, but if you probably noticed if the camera was on me, I wasn't really going to be worried about it because I've seen all these numbers before, and there's no number that they regularly cite the opponents to me. As Aaron's experienced way before COVID came along and how people react to me, it's always very hyperbolic, angry, and they'll give you a version of, do you just want polio to come back? So we need to start asking philosophical questions because they don't have data. How would that happen? Where does polio come from? Mm-hmm. And they don't want to do that because if you really have a grown-up conversation about that, you can pinpoint how these things happen, why there's reasons it wouldn't happen now. It's just not going to be, you stop vaccinating and poof, the dandelion spores are going to bring it all back. That's not how this works. That's not how any of this works.
And if you think that, then take all the vaccines you want.
Yes.
And you'll be protected. I have no idea why the ability of a product to work depends upon those who neither buy it nor use it. There's no other product we say that about. Well, my Coca-Cola won't taste as good if you don't drink it too. What? Tastes great to you. Drink all you want. It's a free country. Now, does that make me a buy or sell on the last submission?
No, I was both.
Okay.
I was both.
All right. I'm whatever he was on the last submission. Go ahead, Aaron.
Tim is next, who says the GOP will retain power in Congress at the midterms.
You know what? I'm going to say bye because this has to just happen. I mean, if it doesn't, at the very least, 75, 80% of Trump's domestic agenda is dead. And we're just going to be sitting here covering impeachment probes of both Trump and virtually every meaningful cabinet official for 2 years. And that's a hellscape. So I'm just going to say bye. It's too early to give you data analysis. It's way too early to know any of that. But I'm just going to say bye because I just don't want to contemplate the work environment of the latter.
I'm going to buy because right now the left is literally running on support of transgender terrorism. So if we can't beat that, like, good grief. Doesn't mean it'll be efficacious. It'll be like warm bodies that are just kind of there to maybe not buy us some time, but my goodness, you have to be able to. Are we going to vote for support transgender terrorism? That's the moment we're in right now.
Guys, he was already maybe the greatest troll of all time.
Is this the auto pen?
He might have already
Yes,
been.
It is. I saw it.
Okay.
I just saw this
But this is basically like asking Superman, do that thing where you flew around the world and changed time. Just do it again for me. All right?
Let me grab the video. Let me go grab the video.
People need to see this. People have got to see this. This is... In the annals of my love for the saying, with the old Irish Catholic axiom, with the devil hates the most is to be mocked. In the annals of all the great content that saying has inspired throughout the ages. Okay, Aaron, do you have this yet?
Just a second. What
you are about to see is the magnum opus of said saying. It doesn't get any better than this.
This is the new, I think, Wall of Fame.
Yes.
In outside the White House.
Yes.
By the renovated Rose Garden. See Reagan, H.W., Clinton, W., Obama, Trump, and then Auto Pen. And then Trump again.
Oh my goodness.
At least we'll have the jokes.
You know what? If we're going down with jokes, that's the best one yet. That's the best one yet. All right. Transcendent. Well, I don't know what to say to it. I mean, it's not a piece de resistance. It's not a magnum opus. It's you become something more, Mr. Wayne. Legend. That's just legendary. I don't know what to say to that other than
no,
we are not worthy.
Okay. Just Go arrest some transgender terrorists.
Well, that would be even
Thank
more
you.
legendary.
Yep.
Yes, that would. Yes. Yeah. We
Ethan
could do
is-
that too. That's a possibility. How about a wall of shame? Here are the people we've arrested and put in prison.
I mean,
For ruining this great
in.
country. Yeah. Let's have the wall of shame. That being said, that is incredible. Okay.
Ethan McClelland has this Mount Rushmore of movie composers. Hans Zimmer, easy automatic buy.
Yep.
John Williams, easiest automatic buy.
Right.
Danny Elfman,
Okay.
and then Alan Silvestri.
I'd have to know what
I
he
don't
did.
know.
Oh,
that.
he's done a lot. I mean, Back to the Future,
Oh, okay.
Forrest
All right.
Gump, Predator,
gotta have
Mummy
maybe
Returns,
Jerry Goldsmith
Night at the
is-
Museum.
Jerry Goldsmith has won Academy Awards. He did Ava Satani for The Omen, for example. But he's done a lot of big movies. So I'd probably put Jerry Goldsmith there instead of Danny Elfman, who's done some big movies. Like he did the score for the Tim Burton Batman films, for example. But I mean, that list, it's terrible. So sure. Okay. It just had
Okay.
to have John Williams on it. After John Williams, it kind of doesn't matter who else is on it, maybe. After John Williams, just had to have him on it. Yeah. He turned it into a genre. I mean, he turned it into an actual genre. John Williams did. He turned movie score. He's like the Rush Limbaugh of movie scores. He made it like a legit standalone business on its own.
Next, we go to Straight Edge, who says there are not enough law enforcement agents, local, state, or federal, to handle the amount of disruption we have in the United States. Illegal aliens, Muslims taking over cities, and cult members threatening, harming, and killing those they view as against their worldview.
So
I'm selling to. What we are lacking for is will.
Target rich
if
environment.
anything.
Go pick, and then find out what the reaction is, and then pick again, and again, and again. Tom Homan had it right, and it's been working. Like, we're just coming. Sooner or later, we'll get you, and they keep rounding them up. Yeah, we have too many. Listen, I'm not even going to my own words. I just said what I was going to do to this. I don't care.
We are not a nation of laws, and we never have been. We are a nation of political will, and we always will be. So I will sell. What is not lacking is the manpower. What is lacking is the will.
It's worse than you think has this. Steve Jobs.
Oh, gosh. What a great name that is.
It's Steve Jobs and Bill Gates. Both have restricted their children's access to the very tech they pioneered. The Wonder Woman lasso of truth could reveal numerous pharma executives similarly restrict use of their products in their families.
Oh, bet.
Yeah.
Bet.
Bye.
I'm not going to experiment on their own kids. That's what you're for. You're beneath them. You're the test subject to see if it does work and what the consequences are. And if it turns out okay, then maybe they go ahead and protect and defend their own children. But they're not. Of course, you're lower than them. This is an automatic, absolute automatic, not even debatable buy.
Yep.
That's just Marxist social theory in every age. You are there. You're grist for the mill, cog in the machine. That's why you're there.
Next, we go to Connor, who says TPUSA will eventually overtake the Republican Party, first by fundraising, then by actual endorsements. The Republican Party will go the way of the Whig Party and be replaced by the Turning Point Party.
I'll buy because this is actually realistic for the first time, like certainly in our lives and since the historical moment you mentioned. I'll buy.
This is exactly what I said to Charlie he was building. I mean, this is more than this could be its own political party. I mean, they have their own ability to do data. They have their own ability to get out the vote. They have their own ability to produce their own marketing, content, messaging, ads. There's nothing they're lacking. They have connections to donors and resources. So candidates are going to come to them, right? People are going to come to them and say, hey, you know what? I mean, you're the surfboard. Let me just hop on and write it, in your name. Here's what we don't know yet. And so for now, I'm going to sell, okay? What we don't know yet is what Erica and the board that's going to be in control of it now, is that what they want? I don't know the answer to that. Do they primarily want it to be a ministry? Do they want it to be, both, like what Charlie envisioned? Can they pull that off? I don't know the answers to that yet. But so for now, I'm going to sell. But Todd is correct. This is what they have built there, what Charlie has built there, via the Lord's help, is the closest we've ever actually seen to something like this coming true, at least on the right. That part is true.
That's it. We'll do the rest of the overtime.
All right, which we're going to record here in about 2 minutes. For the rest of you, don't forget to join us tomorrow, noon to 2 Eastern, right after Glenn Beck and right here on Blaze TV. Until then, go hard. Romans 8:28.